Welcome, Chris from Eboost here. Today we're talking about why growth at all costs is officially dead and what the smarter CMOs I work with are doing instead. Most marketing budgets are still optimized for volume. The era that produced the mindset ended when money got expensive and CFOs reclaimed their seat at the budget table. The replacement is what I'm calling surgical growth, not smaller, not slower, more precise. In this episode, I'll walk you through three things actually changing inside the shift: the rise of high-value microsegments, the resurgence of marketing mix modeling, and the discipline of channel concentration. Okay, the first move is the most consequential, and it's enabled by AI in a way that wasn't possible 3 years ago. So leading marketing organizations are using predictive models to identify the top 5 of the potential customers by projected lifetime value, then concentrating roughly 80% of the acquisition budget on reaching those specific people. The math behind this isn't new. The Pareto distribution has always been waiting for marketers willing to operationalize it. What's new is that AI segmentation paired with rich first-party signal has made it economically viable to find and reach those top 5% before they reveal themselves through behavior. Here's the uncomfortable part for marketers who build their careers on top-of-funnel reach. The volume metrics that used to define a healthy program, things like aided awareness, total impressions, reach against the broad demographics, are now actively misleading. They tell you whether a right net was cast, they don't tell you whether the right fish was caught. CMOs who keep optimizing for volume are paying full price for an audience whose lifetime value is mostly noise around the small, identifiable peak. The pros are real. The CAC drops, payback periods compress, sales teams gets better leads, retention improves because the customers acquired this way were profitable to be a fit before they even saw the ad. So the second move, the resurgence of marketing mix modeling. So this one is being driven by a healthy skepticism about everything bottom-up attribution promised and never quite delivered. The era of last-click, multi-touch attribution platforms, platform-reported ROAS dashboard is unraveling, right? So iOS privacy changes that happened years ago, third-party cookie deprecation, CCPA opt-outs, the general fragmentation of the customer journey, all of it has eroded the signal quality that made bottom-up tracking feel reliable, right? So marketers who've been in performance media long enough to remember what attribution looked like before the trackable digital eras are now openly questioning whether the dashboards they've been managing to are evenly directionally correct. MMM, marketing mix modeling, is the answer, right? So not because it's new, because it asks a different question. Instead of trying to credit specific touch point with specific conversion, MMM uses regression and causal inference at the portfolio level to estimate the incremental contribution of each channel to total business outcomes. So it works with privacy degraded data because it doesn't depend on user level tracking. It produces the kind of numbers a CFO could defend in a board meeting. And it's finally affordable for mid-market companies because cloud compute and modern toolings have dropped the cost of building a credible model from a 6-figure agency engagement to something an in-house analyst can stand up in a quarter. So the right pairing is MMM for strategic mix, incrementality testing for the tactics inside that mix, top-down math for big decision, bottom-up data for small ones. So third move closes the loop, right? So if you're concentrating your targeting on top 5% and using MMM to identify which channels actually drive incremental outcomes, the natural conclusion is to concentrate spend on 2 or 3 channels where the math is clearest. And stop spreading the long tail of the budget across every channel in a media planner could justify with the deck, right? So the era of always-on omni-channel media plan is ending the same reason growth at all costs is ending. They were artifacts of cheap capital when every dollar of marketing was effectively free at the margin. Diversifying across a dozen of channels felt like prudent portfolio construction. When every dollar has to defend itself against a higher hurdle rate, the long tail of channels stops looking like diversification and starts looking like avoidance. So many marketers who concentrate on 2 or 3 high conviction channels aren't being reckless. They're being honest about where their incrementality actually lives, okay? So what works for mid-market companies is a graduation discipline. Run new channel experiments with a small fixed budget and a 90-day window, and channels that show measurable incremental contribution graduates to scale. The ones that don't get cut fast and the budget redirects to a channel that are actually working, that's hard, right? So it requires a culture of saying no internally and to vendors, but it's an operating model that produces the kind of efficient growth public markets are now demanding. So to recap, growth at all costs is dead. Surgical growth is a new operational model. So 3 things are driving it: concentrating spend on top 5% consumers by LTV, returning to MMM for measurement that survives privacy degradation, and cutting the long tail of channels in favor of 2 or 3 high commission bets. The marketers I expect to keep their jobs through the next 2 years are the ones who can stand in front of CFO and explain it in unit economics, right? Exactly why every dollar of the budget belongs where they put it. Surgical growth is an operating model that lets them do that. If you're ready to build a surgical growth program, whether that's high LTV segmentation, implementation, or channel concentration, let's talk. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe and drop a comment below, right? Thank you.